Hey, Ramadan Diary Part 5. Actually, no, it's Part 12. Anyway, yeah, I didn't do one last night because basically storm problems, computer problems, internet problems. Yeah, okay. Tonight, I attended an Iftar at a mosque, and it was my first time at a mosque, and yeah, it was really great. I might as well start out talking about the downside of the evening, and it was ironically at the very end, there was someone who's kind of with the mosque, and another guy who's just visiting who was a Christian, and strangely, he was kind of sort of that basically in a very polite and respectful way, ironically. And I think it was more him just kind of expressing his opinions, expressing his views. Basically, the exact same things that a lot of conservative Christians say. Although he was, to his credit, he was definitely doing it in a polite and respectful way. And I think if we had kept the conversation going and kind of moved on and talked more and more, I think it would have, yeah, we would have, there would have been a lot of great stuff. But, yeah, and he did, offer me his phone number, and I said, might as well just give me a text. And strangely, there was something weird going on with my phone. I didn't get the text. And no, this is not my passive aggressive thing. I didn't get the text. And but on the downside, there was someone else who gave me gave me his phone number. I gave him my number, and he basically called me because I didn't have my phone on. I turned it off because we had to turn it off for the prayer. Didn't get it, but okay, that was the downside of the evening. But the upside, wow, great, amazing, wonderful experience. Um, let's basically start out. I arrived kind of there were quite a few non-Muslims who were there, and I mean, basically, we went into the prayer room, sat in chairs. I kind of had a nice conversation with one of them, and there was a woman, a Muslim woman, basically, who was just having us writing down the questions that some of us had about Islam and Ramadan and all that other stuff. And she was basically started answering some of the ones that she felt were easier to answer. And then the call to prayer started, and someone else from the mosque kind of walked up to all of us and basically said, "We're right now we're breaking. This is the call to prayer, but right now we're breaking the fast with dates. And then we're gonna come back in and do the prayer, and then usually I'm not sure if I've always, I mean, I've been partaken in a lot of different religious ceremonies, but I think this is possibly my first time just sitting down and watching, which was a really great experience and wonderful thing to see. I was seeing it was a very diverse group of people. I mean, I was thinking there are so many Muslims here in Minnesota or Somali immigrants. I was kind of thinking it would be a bunch of people who are all the same. Wow, a lot of diversity, children, and I was kind of interested in seeing that some of the people there were a bit more laid back. Something that really impressed me was there were a couple of elder people who are not in the physical condition to do the full getting down on the knees and all that, so they had chairs. Sat down in the chair, just kind of bent down during that portion. But that that definitely I was yeah. But what really impressed me was their hospitality. Um, Many of them were just introducing themselves and saying, "Hi, welcome. It's great to have you here." And when we were in line for sort of waiting for the food, one of them said, "Hey, come sit here." and we had a wonderful conversation. Um, One of the questions I had about making up the missed days during Ramadan was, do we use the times for the days that we missed, or the times of the day that we're making up? And it turns out to be we use the times for the day we're making up. So, and I told him that I'm probably going to make up the days that I missed because I was traveling during winter, during December. It's more sort of a time to wrap things up. Not because the fasting is much shorter, but yeah. He and the other Muslims who I mentioned this to, that I mentioned that I'm also fasting for Ramadan in solidarity with them, were really impressed. After I had the conversation with him, we then got into line for we were then allowed to get into line for food, and there was, right when I was getting out of line looking for a place to sit, there was a woman with her husband and her daughter and a couple of other people. One person who was just visiting, and some other people. She just pointed to a seat, made eye contact with me, pointed to a seat, and invited me to sit with her family and the other people there. And mostly we were looking at her daughter, who was kind of refusing to eat. And the daughter's like really a little girl, had a really cute hairstyle. Kind yeah, something that wasn't really that I didn't really think of as a big deal, but I guess was something that should maybe be noted. This woman was wearing a hijab, but her daughter, little girl, wasn't. Hair completely shown, had a cute little hairstyle. The little girl also had a Hello Kitty stuffed animal. But anyway, yeah, the little girl got pretty happy, but was kind of refusing to eat, and we were something that kind of our conversation was about, when do you start fasting? When's the age where you start? And she basically said, when you're an adult. Teenagers are allowed to practice, but kids are not allowed to fast, basically. They're kids. I mean, it's kind of common sense, really. But, yeah, it had a great conversation. We talked about some of the history of, these are immigrants from Pakistan, so we talked a little bit about Pakistan and India and some of that. Then they left, some of the visitors left, and then I was kind of putting my food away. Then I went upstairs, had a conversation with a guy who recently converted to Islam. He was talking about sort of his upbringing with sort of his interesting, very weird Christian upbringing. Well, he didn't really talk much about that, but yeah, he commented on one of the things he's really liked about Islam, and it was, yeah, it was a very great dialogue. Um, and then that's where the people I talked about at the beginning came to visit. Had a great conversation. I'm gonna admit, learned a lot. I mean, it was. I'm really, the only complaint I have, I already mentioned, but overall, a great conversation. I went in, witnessed. I was invited to watch in the later prayer after, basically the last prayer of the night. I was noticing afterwards there were, some of them were doing other prayers, and wow, great hospitality, wonderful people, very friendly, very welcoming, absolutely fantastic night. And um yeah, thank you for watching. Assalamu alaikum.